Okay, this video is going to be an overview in how to go about revising our essays and helping us use those correction and commendation guides to understand my feedback. In addition, we'll look at an example of a strong opposition paragraph, something that we struggled with a lot on this paper, and hopefully that's going to help you understand what to expect and what changes to make as you begin the revision process. So what I've started with here is this is an example student paper that has my notes and my feedback on it. We're just going to look at this first page here. Let's walk through each of my notes and use our guide to break down what I'm asking this person to change. Starting at the beginning. I've written a number 1 and I've made a small note add emotion. So to understand what I'm saying here, let's pull up our guide. Notice mine is white. Your correction and commendation guide is always green. There's copies of it that I gave to you in class. Also, you can pick up extra copies on that hanging file system next to the word wall at any time. Okay, so 1 says, introduction needs a stronger, more relevant attention getter. Okay, and connecting that with the note that I gave this person, add emotion, obviously that this was not a strong enough, emotional enough hook. So what I would do if I were this person is add a sentence before the first sentence they already have that draws the reader in, creates emotional response, but also connects to the topic in the thesis. Okay, so thinking about what this introduction talks about, it says over 100,000 total Japanese immigrants were relocated toward relocation centers. That is background and context, right? Notice that the hook is actually completely missing in this instance. So I would add a sentence before that saying, imagine being relocated away from your home, away from your family and your friends. Imagine your life never being the same again, except, whoops, I accidentally said you, we don't want to use personal pronouns. But something along those lines, it's emotional, it's impactful, it draws the reader in, and it ties directly with the following sentence, the one that I already have here. Okay, so what about 29D? It looks like I've underlined part of that phrase as well. So let's take a look at our guide. 29D. Incorrect and punctuation. So it's a punctuation error. Now, if we remember what we talked about in class this past week, using commas and introductory clauses, notice during World War II, that is a dependent clause. So because the sentence starts with a dependent clause, remember you always have to have a comma. So for this person, all they would need to do is add a comma and they're good to go. The next number is 5, and that's after their thesis. So let's see what that means. A 5 means the thesis is focused, sophisticated, and effectively establishes the subject and explains the content of the essay. Oh, that's great! So that means this person does not need to change their thesis at all. It's a positive. It's a commendation. So I do give those positive bits of feedback every once in a while to help you know when you're doing things right. Okay, next paragraph. The first number I see is a 36. Let's take a look at that. Ineffective use of quotations, these should be effectively embedded into your own writing. Okay, so hopefully if you haven't already, you've watched that video lecture about embedding your quotes. And that's going to help you with things like this. So anytime you see a 36, that's because you've dropped the quotation. Notice that there's nothing introducing the CD whatsoever. So review that video lecture and make changes based on that. Next number is a 10. And I made a note, explain how this connects to loyalty. So let's pull up that guide. A 10 refers to weak commentary, a weak CM. Okay, so obviously I gave a note to help direct that commentary. So how can this connect to loyalty? You have to look at what they've already written. The Japanese were seen as disloyal, evil, threatening, and spies. However, a large amount of Japanese Americans fought for the United States against Japan in the war. Okay, so maybe don't take anything out in this instance, but add a sentence of commentary that says this displays their loyalty and love for their country and how they didn't want to side with Japan, they wanted to side with the United States. Period. Right? So now that takes it one step further and clarifies what they're trying to say. 12/36. Well, we already know 36 refers to embedding quotations, but what does 12 mean? Weak transition from one idea to another within the body paragraph. So the great thing about transitions and embedding quotes is often you can do them at the same time. So as long as you're moving from this previous CD's idea to this previous CD or this current CD's idea and using the embedding quotation rules at the same time, you're going to be in good shape. Again, review that video lecture to learn how to do that. In the vast crowd of Japanese being relocated, there were many toddlers and babies. Most of the adults in the crowd were dressed in their best clothes to be relocated. All of these people loyal to the American country. So we've already established that the 10 is referring to weak commentary. In this instance, this is where conferencing helps because it's hard to always know exactly what I want you to change in the commentary. But I can tell you that this is a little bit of weak logic. Looking at the concrete detail, you could actually make a stronger connection that because they're dressed in their Sunday best, they're local citizens. That shows that they're actually not criminals, they're not traitors, they're not spies, they're just everyday people. And that's why this supports their thesis, right, that it was not justified. So if you connect that to your thesis, that makes it much stronger commentary. 29D, punctuation, right? In this instance, depending on when you watch this video, you may already know about semicolons, but maybe you don't. The rule of semicolons is you always use a semicolon if there is no conjunction between your clauses. So notice there's no and, or, but, nor, yet, or so, or for. No conjunction, so you need to have a semicolon, not a comma. Over here we have another punctuation error. This looks like a dependent clause leading our sentence, so of course add a comma there. Then, looks like we missed a bit of analysis, that 10 there, and that is associated with what we discussed before, maybe connecting better to the text and talking about how they're everyday people, they have their children with them, they're just normal people. That ties to their thesis a little bit better. But 16, connect to your position. So that sentence, that last concluding sentence in your paragraph, you need to restate your thesis in a way, right? So instead of saying overall, comma, there were more loyal Japanese Americans than there were disloyal threatening spies, comma, making the relocation unjustified, right? Just adding that clause ties it back to your thesis. Okay, so hopefully we feel pretty good about how to make corrections using our correction and commendation guide. Again, I will reiterate that it is critically important that students see me for help before they revise. It's going to help guide your thinking and guide your focus a little bit better. And it's going to help you understand what changes you need to make and what changes you don't. This I want to show you guys to help you as you begin the process of revising. It's easy to skip over different bits of feedback like we did before with that 10. So it's really important that you use this system. You can use a different system, but I like this one that this student used, is that this person highlighted things that were okay, meaning it's positive feedback, they didn't have to change it. And they also highlighted in a different color things that needed to be fixed. So they went through and then they highlighted each bit of my feedback that needed to be fixed, things that were good. And then once they changed the things that needed to be fixed, they crossed it out. So that's something that you could use as well as you begin revising. And I want to use this chance to remind you that striking out does happen. Remember, striking out on an essay revision means that I counted 3 bits of my feedback that you did not change on your revision. And if that happens, you do not get the chance to earn a higher grade. So this system of highlighting and crossing out will really be beneficial to you to avoid striking out. Of course, remember that you can always continue revising even if you do strike out, but it's better to do the revision correctly the first time. Okay, the last thing I want to talk about before we wrap up this video is opposition paragraphs. This is a strong example of a person who did a really nice job with their opposition. I've come up with 3 things that you need to include in an opposition paragraph. First, address the opposition or the opposing view. When we look at this example, we're going to highlight that in yellow. 2, they have to acknowledge the validity of the opposing argument, and we're going to highlight that in turquoise. And then the last component, and probably the most important, is countering the argument. And let's highlight that in green. So what I want you to do is I want you to read through this example to yourself. Pause the video, and I want you to figure out, where do you think those 3 components are? Where do you think they address the opposition, acknowledge validity, and where do they counter the argument? See if you can't come up with your own idea. So pause and then come back. So I'm looking at this, and I think that they acknowledge the opposition within the topic sentence. So let's highlight that in yellow. Then that immediately following sentence where they say that they had good intentions, that's acknowledging the validity. And I think they continue to do that into their concrete detail as well as their commentary following it. To the point, to the sentence. So let's highlight all that in turquoise. Notice that they transition now to countering the argument starting here, and for the remainder of the paragraph, they counter the argument. While their intentions might have been good, they were still imprisoning the Japanese more than they were protecting them. And then they use evidence to support that idea as well as provide their own commentary about that. So notice that in no instance are they agreeing with the opposition. They make it almost a neutral stance, like, hey, some people believe this, maybe they had good intentions, but in no way are they agreeing with the opposing view. It's really important that you do not do that, because that's a weaker argument. Hopefully this video helped you out as you begin the process of revising. Remember, you can always sign up to conference with me on the Google Doc. It looks like this. You just type in your name and the date that you would like to come see me, and it saves automatically, and I'll see that you're coming and meet you at that time in my room, 1322. All right, thanks for watching.